Hi there, Adam Small here with Agent Sauce, and this is the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. With me, as always, is Doug Carr of DK New Media.
I'm here.
That's good to know. Otherwise, I'd be seeing things.
Wouldn't be much of a conversation with
Well,
only one person.
Well, I'd be the smartest guy in the room.
You do talk to yourself a lot.
How you doing today, Doug?
Fantastic.
Good to know. So, listen, so today I thought we could just kind of go over what a CRM is and talk about kind of the features and the reasons to have it, that sort of thing. What do you think?
I like it. You said before when we were talking about this subject, man, this might be boring.
Well, I was a little concerned because you kind of, you define things, and the last thing I want is for people to go, sheesh, I already know this, and
I think a lot of people know about CRMs, but I think people make the mistake of not using them.
Well, and I've run into that many a
time. They think, oh, this is going to be a pain in the butt. Oh, I got to record everything. Oh, this is too much hassle. And so they don't see the return on investment.
Well, and so I guess that right there is probably the number one feature of a CRM that you want is usability, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if it's hard to use and you got to change all your processes and slow down and you're entering data 2 hours a day, you don't want it.
Yeah, because it's funny because you've heard me say it before, and I think I've even said it on the podcast before. Technology should be an enabler of business, not a disabler of business. And, it can be done in a lot of ways, processes and difficulty, hard to use software where you're required to change your process and the way you do business to suit the software just isn't going to fly.
Right, exactly.
So you might want to make sure no matter what you're looking at, whether it be a CRM or, a word processor, whatever it is, you want to make sure that it enables you to do the job you want to do, not changes the way you have to do things.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess that's the first feature. So let's talk about, the general overview of a CRM. What is a CRM in general?
Well, it's basically a database. It's a customer database, and it's for helping build relationships. So it's a customer relationship management system.
Right. So it's a lot more than just a Rolodex, though, right? So with a CRM, not only do you collect the basic of information about somebody, name, email address, phone number, that sort of thing, but you also record your contacts and your information with them,
Right.
So, hey, I talked to them on this day and I emailed them on this day and I phone called, or, even, social media interactions with them can all go into it so that you have kind of this running history of the relationship with that person. And, the good CRMs have a nice feature that will remind you, hey, it's been 30 days since you talked to this guy. Maybe you need to talk to him. And, the way it ideally should work is that you can grade your contacts, A, B, C, D, that sort of thing, and then put a rule on there that says, hey, my A customers, I want to be talking to them every 2 weeks, and my B contacts, I want to be, every month or every quarter, and my C's are every 6 months, and my D's are once a year, and it's just a matter of touching base with a lot of it, and if you've got a good email marketing program going, that can substitute a lot of it, but you still want to get that personal touch in there. So,
yeah, I mean I think the hard part nowadays is for people to maintain touch with everybody, and so the CRM, where it can save you time, is if you already know that you had sent an email out and the person clicked through on it. Now maybe you either maybe it triggers you to give them a call, or maybe you say, hey, that's great, I touched them this month, I'll touch them again next month,
Right.
And so there's times where it's going to save you a lot of time, and there's other times where it's going to keep you accountable, that holy smokes, I didn't follow up with that person that I told I said that I was going to, and how many times does that happen to us personally?
Oh, right. Where you say, hey, I'll email that over to you tonight or this afternoon or whatever. And then you get caught up in something else and completely space it. And 3 days later, you remember. And the terrible thing about that is that, 3 days later may be too late. You may have lost the sale. You may have lost the opportunity.
I think the other one too is that the CRM's capabilities are to capture every touch point nowadays, and where that used to be a manual. When CRM first came out, that was a manual process. So if you called someone, you had to open up your CRM,
And
log
putting
it
all
in,
the data, right?
book it. And so the nice thing nowadays is that, email clicks, email opens, email sends, even phone calls, if it's a click to call and everything else, a lot of times the functionality is in these systems that it records the interaction so that you don't have to. And I think that's now we're starting to say, okay, well, now I don't just have an ROI on it. Now I'm going to increase my ROI,
Right.
because it's going to maintain all of that connection relationship and how valuable that person is to me.
Right. Well, because it's also, and it's funny because CRMs have really grown up in the last few years, right? More so than just data collection points where you're manually inputting data, like you said. Now there's a marketing automation piece to it as well, and not only that, but it's also the ability to capture that data in other areas, like you said. When they visit your website, guess what? You can actually identify them and put on in their contact sheet, hey, so-and-so has been to my website 8 times now, and then you can pop a rule on there, say, hey, if they visit the website more than 5 times in a given week or something, it pops up, says, hey, you need to contact Joe, that sort of thing. So, the CRMs are really becoming much more than just the contact sheet and repository of data.
Yeah.
When you start getting into the automation piece,
Start triggering things.
Yeah, so the value there becomes exponential, because not only can you actually have visibility into where they're doing their actions, where they're taking actions insofar as online text messages, phone calls, emails, and that sort of thing, but you can also set those rules up, the automation rules up, that trigger you to take action because somebody met a certain criteria.
Yep.
So that's also a great thing with CRMs. And they're becoming automated marketing platforms.
Yeah, they're connecting to everything. So the capabilities, I know you've enhanced the ones in AgentSauce significantly over the years, adding events that are happening to people and building triggers off of them and everything.
Right. Well, like I said, rules with when they open emails, when they get a text message lead on a home, when they respond to an email, click on links, so opening and reading an email is great. But once they start clicking on links, and even the type of link, if it's a listing link instead of
now
link back to
they're
the
hunting.
blog, you know that they're at least something piqued their interest, and it might be time to reach out and touch them, So, and that's all technology and automation going on there, Beyond that, though, what other things are being done with CRMs?
Well, I mean, one thing is obviously you're collecting data, in the cloud. You're collecting data in a place where it's safe, so that's always good. You have people that they swear by their Franklin Planner, and I'm not knocking that. Franklin planners are great, but you lose your Franklin Planner, or or you lose your Rolodex, or you lose whatever, or you have a fire, you're done.
Right.
And so one thing that's great about CRM is that it's in the cloud, it's backed up, it's secure, so nobody can access it. And so that's one thing. The big one too for companies, if you got more than one employee, if you just have one employee, and you don't want that employee making contact with all kinds of people that you've built a relationship with, and you don't have a record of that.
Right.
You need to be able to say, if I'm going out to lunch with Amy, I should look it up in my CRM and see, oh wow, my employee was just talking to her last week about that problem. Let me call him first.
Right.
See what happened with that, and then when I sit down with Amy, we can talk about how that happened. And that to me is the big one, is that we tend to bounce these relationships between employees, or I'm sure in real estate it's between agents or
Right.
brokers, and so the thing is you want to own kind of the history of that, so that when you go to look someone up, you know exactly where you stand, because there's no worse problem than calling someone and they said, so-and-so just talked to me yesterday and I told them not to call me.
Well, exactly. Or something that we encountered early on before we really turned AgentSauce into a CRM was that we would get a support request of some sort, and one person would call the person, and the person that was making the request, and they would take care of it. And then 20, 30 minutes later, another employee would call that person up and say, hey, can I help you out with this, right? Because you're trying to be proactive and get things taken care of. But, we didn't have a real good way of contacting or keeping track of those things really early on before we turned Agent Sauce into a CRM. So now, of course, we've got all of our customers in our CRM, and before we make any call to respond to a support request or anything like that, we look up that customer in the CRM and see who talked to them, when they talked to them, what they talked to them about, so we know that somebody, all of the most recent activity that's occurred. And that's a great way for a tech company to work with it, but a real estate company is the same way. They can pick up the phone, they can look up their contact, pick up the phone and say, oh yeah, last time we talked, it was 6 months ago, and we talked about how they'd be ready to buy in the next 6 to 9 months, and that they were looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a 50-acre yard and whatever it may be, right? And of course they want it for $10. But the thing is that it helps keep you on track with that. And if it was John Doe that spoke to him instead of you can still say, oh, well, these are the notes, and you understand where to pick up.
Right. Yep.
So.
Exactly.
So, okay. And that's all we have to say about that today.
Well, no, I mean, it's tough for people to get into that habit of, recording, each person that they meet and putting it in there and stuff. And what we're trying to get at here is, look, yes, you're right. It's going to take 2 more minutes, to add that person in there and save them and everything else. But that 2 minutes might get you, a home sale 6 months from now.
Exactly.
And that's the rub, is if you keep working at it, it's just like everything else with digital marketing. It's momentum. And as your database is cleaner and more complete, you're able to make better decisions. You're able to, like you said, score and order your list more effectively. You're able to, make less mistakes, keep in touch with people more, and it's just going to make you far more efficient on the sales and marketing side.
And you when you start combining the CRM with marketing automation, that's where you really start to see value, because again, like we said earlier, it can do a lot to remind you, but when you start dropping drip campaigns and stuff like that in there from an email perspective, that constant touch, again, it helps build that relationship with that person. So yeah, I guess that's all I got to say about CRMs today. I think it's really a powerful tool. I think so, especially making the Forrest Gump reference. That's all I got to say about that.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, CRMs really can be a great and powerful tool. You just kind of like Great and Powerful Oz. So yeah, CRMs can be a great tool, as long as you're using it, as long as it's not forcing you to do a lot more work to get the benefit out of it. So what are some things, let's not end just yet. What are some things to look for in a good CRM, Doug?
Well, you mentioned earlier, and I would say it, one I would say is automation. So like click to call, I know we worked with a company once that was working with like Salesforce, and their salespeople had to click like 11 times to record that they made a phone call with someone. And so literally, because you had to log in, click this tab, then click this, then do a search, then click and find the person, then click in the section, and so it was something that it was a demotivator. The salespeople just hated it,
Right.
And so, the first thing was people figured out how to program. How do I just make a list that people can call, and click. And so the first thing that I would look for is, what are the pieces of it that are automated and what's manual based on my process?
Right.
And so if I was one of your agents, or, I would say, when I meet someone new who's possibly a prospect, how do I record their information, and how do I set a reminder for myself to go back and talk to them? How do I do those things? Well, if this is going to take longer,
Right.
you're going to be dissuaded. You're just not going to want to do it.
If it's difficult,
Yeah.
you're just not. You're
Yeah.
disincentivized. You're just not going to do it. And even if you say, well, you have to,
Right.
people just aren't going to do it.
And
It's
so-
as simple as that.
But if you see, like you built the mobile app with a card scanner,
Right.
Now I don't even have to type their information in. I can just take a picture. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes.
so much easier.
And so things like that are what you should be looking for is how do I make my life easier with a CRM? And then I think the second half of it is how is that data accessible for me to kind of look?
Mhm.
I want to look at it and, like you said, score these people and say, how can I sort these people? I'm over in this section of town today. How can I get a list of those people that are around there that I should go,
Right.
call on or whatever?
Right.
And so a lot of these CRMs are weird where it's a lot of that's hidden. Like
Mhm.
your own data is hard to find.
Hard to find, hard
You know?
hard to run reporting on.
Yeah.
Right. And hard to dig in and really drill down on things.
And so that's the second part of it, I would say, is if it, easy in, easy out. How
Right.
do I get a hold of it and make decisions with it?
Right. So a good reporting platform, maybe even the ability to categorize. Right. We implemented tags last year so that you could just do a free-form categorization on anybody.
Nice.
And you can run reports on it. Say, show me everybody that lives on the east side.
Yeah.
Or show me everybody that I met at the this event that I went to on the 4th or whatever, or at this particular open
Right.
house or whatever it may be, So, and the hardest part with that was making it so that it's kind of accessible across the board, not only from a reporting perspective where you can say, oh, show me everybody with this tag, but also where you can say, hey, I want to send an email to the people with these tags.
That's cool.
And,
So like if you had a list of real estate investors, you could just tag them all investor.
right.
And then when you see a property that comes open that's perfect for an investor,
Create an email, send it to them.
Yeah.
Just select the investors on the
Woo!
tag
Nice.
and away it goes. Right.
yeah,
So, so again, trying to make it work better for you. Right.
yep,
So I would agree. I think that categorization, the ability to act on the data you're collecting, it would be great if you could tag everybody, but it wouldn't be great if you could not do anything with it. So great, I can tag them, but what do I do with it?
yeah.
So
I tagged them, categorized them, scored them, but I can't actually do anything
There's
with that.
nothing to do with them at this point. So yeah.
That's funny.
So usability, number one, I would agree, just ease of use in order to actually be able to use the system, but then also being able to use the data in a metric type of way, a reporting type of way, more so than just the actual functional use of the system.
Yep.
I would agree. All right. Got anything else to add today, Doug?
That was exciting.
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
good.
CRM's good.
Okay. This has been Adam Small and Doug Carr with the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. Thanks for listening and have a great day.